Today we're going to talk about Charles Martel, Pepin, and Charlemagne. These three men are the founder of the Carolingian dynasty. They were the founder of Christendom in West Europe. His followers expand his teaching across the world. They conquered Syria, they conquered Egypt, they conquered North Africa, and also they conquered Spain. If only they were not stopped by the Frankish kingdom in the Battle of Tours, then probably the history will be completely different, as Islam will conquer the rest of the Western world or the Christendom at that time. Then Western Europe also will be fell into the hands of the Islam. History will be so much different. The Frankish kingdom considered to be as the origin of the modern country of France right now, and also Germany, and also part of Italy, and also Belgium. So yes, basically these are the western part of Europe, which is the rest of the Western civilization history will revolves around this place. Now for the Frankish kingdom to stop the Muslim invasion, they actually had a small chance to win. It's just because somehow their kings were not doing the responsibility. Their kings were weak. They are neglecting their duty as a king. Well, don't get me wrong though. The early kings of the Frankish kingdom was a very kind of was a very mighty king. Someone, for example, by the name of Clovis. Now, however, the descendants of Clovis, which is these kings, this Frankish kings, because they were neglecting their responsibility as a king, but instead they were busy being amused and also being entertained. All they care is just to play and have fun. Now, this series of this Frankish king known as the do-nothing kings. As the name itself, they are not doing anything. Hence the name itself, they are not doing anything what a king should be. So, the one who is responsible for running the government, the one who is responsible to leading the war, the one who is responsible to acting as a leader, as the authority at that time, were the officials of the king, head by the mayor of palace. That's the title, by the way. It's probably, if you're familiar with the Egyptian history, it's similar like vizier. Are they the king? No, they are not. Do they have a claim on the throne? No, they don't have a claim for the throne. They were just the servant of the king, but yet they run the country while the kings are doing nothing. So now with this existence of these do-nothing kings in the Frankish kingdom, it's a tragic, by the way, as the kingdom itself was founded by a fierce warriors, the Frankish tribes, the Frankish barbarian tribes who carved their own territory from the mighty Roman empires, just before the mighty Roman Empire fall. Now, one of the mayor of palace is someone by the name of Charles Martel. So, the name Martel is basically hammer. Charles Martel, he was famous for stopping the Muslim invasions towards the Frankish kingdom from the south, from the Spain. The Muslims or the Saracens army brought with them 10,000 troops and horses. This number itself is outnumbering the Frankish kingdom troops that led by Charles Martel. The leader of the Saracens at that time is someone by the name of Abdul Rahman. The battle was a very fierce battle. It happened in somewhere in the modern country of France right now, a place by the name of Tours. I might mispronounce it, but there you go, Tours. So in this battle of Tours, it was a very bloody battles. It lasted for about 7 days. Charles Martel, he is using the strategy of Alexander the Great by grouping his troops into a rectangular formations with the phalanx tactics. If you remember about phalanx tactics, because most of the Saracens forces were cavalries. Now the battle won because the Saracens warrior, they were afraid that their camp were being attacked by the Frankish. So instead of staying on their post, staying in the battlefield, they retreat and then they leave behind Abdurrahman, their leader. And because of that one, because of this chaos and the confusions, Abdurrahman, he was killed in the battle, and the Battle of Tours was won by the Frankish kingdom under the leadership of Charles Martel. Now the second person that I would like to introduce you is someone by the name of Pepin. Now Pepin is the son of Charles Martel, and because of his father, he also became the mayor of palace for the Frankish kingdom, serving under the do-nothing kings. Now what's so special about Pepin? Well, Pepin, he was being called by his friends as the Pepin the Short. But do not let that name fool you. Yes, Pepin might be short, but he has a courage twice larger than everyone else. In fact, when he was young, there was a time that he jumped into the middle of a circus because he tried to save a bull from a lion, and he killed the lion in the process. Oh, by the way, he killed the lion with only a dagger, like about this long. And the next thing that you need to know about Pepin, Pepin is the one who ended the reign of these do-nothing kings. How it happens? It happens because of this one. Now, at this moment, the church in Rome, which is one of the big great five major church in the ancient world at that time, was under attack by the kingdom of Lombards. And these Lombards keep harassing the church and then bullying the Pope or the bishops of Rome. Now, this is a very terrible thing for a church, because because the church, they do not have any defender. They were in a weak positions because they were not having any kind of like property or land. They were being pushed around by the strongest ruler around that area. So they were become like the easy target for any bullies, any kings that time. Now, and not just that one, Pepin also gave a huge piece of land to the church, to the Pope, with the idea is so that the church can become independent, and then they are no longer depending on the other surrounding kingdom or surrounding kings or rulers just to protect them. So Pepin gave them independence by giving the church a land, a property. Now, to these days, in the modern times right now, this land are still, this land that's being given by Pepin, it still exists. Well, actually, it's shrinking a lot, only just to be as big as Vatican City in the middle of the city of Rome. If you go to Rome, I know it's kind of a bit confusing. So, the Vatican is a country in the middle of a city of a country by the name of Italy. Cityception. Yeah, cityception. This piece of land in the history known as the Pepin's donations. The Pope, in gratitude, proclaiming that Pepin should become the king of the Frankish kingdom instead of just a mayor of palace. Of course, at that time, the opinion of the Pope was being highly valued, was being highly appreciated, and everybody will follow and everybody will listen to him. So because of that one, everybody back in the Frankish kingdom declare that Pepin is the king of the Frankish kingdom. And then the do-nothing kings, which is at that time the last do-nothing kings, is someone by the name of Childeric. Why the name is Childeric? Does it mean that he's childish? Maybe. King Childeric, he was being exiled, okay? He was not being executed, but then again, he was being exiled. I'm pretty sure they exile him nicely by giving him kind of like, enough toys for him to play until the rest of his life, I guess. There you go. That is Pepin. Now, Pepin officially, he become the king of the Frankish kingdom. What interesting is the son of Pepin, someone by the name of Charlemagne. Yes, he's the big guy. Okay, his name is basically Charles Magnus, which is Charles the Great. Charlemagne. Okay, Magnus means great, so Charles the Great. He is physically big guy. He is a very intimidating person. And then he's also a warrior king. He knows how to fight, and then he knows how to lead, and then he knows how to fight, and then he's not shy away from the war. He's not shy away from the battle. Now, one thing that you need to take notes about Charlemagne is one thing. Charlemagne, he became the first emperor 300 years after the last Roman emperor ruled. Well, yes, Europe at the time, Western Europe, they did not have any emperor as the Roman Empire itself fell. Well, not the East though. The Roman Empire still exists and is still alive and kicking in the East, known as the Byzantine Empire. He was being coronated or crowned as the emperor at 25 of December, 800. What an easy date to remember, isn't it? Yes, he was being crowned as the emperor by the Pope, and because of that one, it was considered to be the birth of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, what does that mean? Holy Roman Empire. The idea of making the Holy Roman Empire is the idea to revive the glory, the greatness of the old Roman Empire. Because the Roman Empire itself, as you guys learned so far, it fails, right? It crumbles, it fails. The idea of crowning Charlemagne as the emperor is trying to reanimate it again, the Roman Empire. But this time, Holy Roman Empire. Now, what does that mean? It's a Roman Empire, but with the Christian values, cultures, and teachings. The size of this empire, almost as big as the continent of Europe itself. he pushed all the way his territory to the east and then having a war with the Saxons. Now, it was a very brutal war. It was a very long and bloody war. So, basically, Charlemagne converted the Saxons, and then the Saxons, they converted to Christianity through forced baptism. Now, what does that mean? Charlemagne forced them to be baptized, to be converted to Christianity. I know this is kind of a bit weird, but because of that one, the Saxons, they will have the superstition. Their gods, abandoning them because they abandoned their gods by letting themselves to be baptized. So therefore, they have no more options to follow the gods of the god of the Christians. I know that is kind of like weird superstition that among the Saxons about the god. So there you go. Nevertheless, his campaign in the eastern part of his empire considered to be successful. He also conquered the northern part of Italy and also like the modern country of France right now, except for England. Charlemagne did not include England as part of his empire. His campaign in the south in Spain was not as successful the one in the east, which is with the Saxons. There was a tragic as Charlemagne tried to expand his empire in the south. His campaign in the south was not as successful as his campaign in the east with the Saxons, because the presence of the Muslims in Spain were too powerful for him to conquer, to include Spain as part of his empire. And then it was a tragic campaign as Charlemagne and his troops returning back to his realm. On the way, somewhere in the Pyrenees mountain, he got ambushed, and because of that ambush, he lost a group number of good warriors, including his noble friend, including his noble knight, including his favorite knight, someone by the name of Roland. Through that tragedy, it inspired the French literature about the Songs of Roland. So basically, Songs of Roland is a story and also poetry about the idea of chivalry. Emperor Charlemagne's legacy was not just only through swords and blood, but he also someone who is very cultured and then someone is very care for culture and educations. The legacy that he left for the education is he built schools in every churches. Every churches in his entire realm must have a school and every kid's given a chance to go to school even though they are poor. He then also encouraging like the monks in the monastery to copy the books, to copy the old manuscript and then using the monastery as the library, as a library collecting all of this manuscript and also books from the past. Charlemagne also cared for the religious life of his people. He forced everyone to stop working on Sunday and attending the church. Everybody have to stop to work because it's considered to be as a Sabbath and then they have to go to the church to listen to the sermon. He requires everyone to pay the tithes, 10% of their income to the church. Now the amount of these tithes being collected by the church, it will be donated to the poor and also the needy. And Charlemagne enforced this kind of like rules of tithings just the way he imposed everyone to pay their taxes. And then also he requiring the churches and also the priests to give the sermon in the local language that everybody can understand. For your information though, because by this moment that if you go to the church, then most likely you will not going to be able to understand like the prayer and also the sermon and the message. Because why? Everything was spoken in Latin. You have to study Latin in order for you to understand. But it doesn't matter for people in the past as long they were attending the church, as long they are following through the ceremony and also the prayer, then they were safe. They were considered to be finished with their religious duty. But Charlemagne doesn't want people to just like go to the church to fulfill their religious duty, but then again, everybody must understand the word of God. That's why he required the church and also the priest to translate their message, their sermon into the local language so people can understand. And last but not least, Charlemagne also provide peace and also orderliness in his empire. At this moment, the Vikings, which is we will talk about the Vikings next time in the future, the Vikings, they did not dare to, because they were afraid of Charlemagne's troops that always constantly guarding the cities. And in returns, the Vikings, they're raiding somewhere else, which is mostly the coastline of the Britain Island. Now, in the east itself, Charlemagne also maintained a good diplomatic relationship with the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire, they had a reason to get jealous with the Holy Roman Empire because There can be only one Roman Empire. Now, according to the Byzantine Empire, the true Roman Empire should be in the east, in the Byzantine, because they are still somehow consider themselves as the Roman Empire. They never fell. So, but anyway, Charlemagne, he built a friendly relationship with the Byzantine, and at Charlemagne's time, the emperor of the Byzantine was not an emperor, but then again, an empress, someone by the name of Irene, Empress Irene. And what could be interesting is like this: what if Empress Irene and Emperor Charlemagne, they got united in marriage and they got married? And what will happen with the history? What will happen with the dream of reviving the Holy Roman Empire? It could be great. But then again, yeah, it didn't happen. It never happens. Charlemagne also built a good diplomatic relationship with the Muslims in Spain. In fact, the Muslim rulers respect Charlemagne, and oftentimes they give gift to Charlemagne. One of the interesting gifts that Charlemagne ever received from these like Muslim rulers are the elephants and also the water-powered clock. Imagine a clock runs by water. How cool is that? Yes, it was very fascinating for Charlemagne because this technology was just way too advanced for him to understand. Only the Muslim scholars the one who discovered how to make it. So in conclusion, Charlemagne, he was a great leader. He have a perfect balance between brawl and brain. He have a perfect balance as a mighty warrior king at the same time as a wise king who really care for the cultures and also built good diplomatic relationship with many nations and then create stability over his empire. It was considered to be prosperous and peaceful, his empire under his leadership. Unfortunately though, all those things are lost, all of those things crumbled after he died. He was being replaced by these three grandsons, and then after that the empire itself split into three. So the three grandsons of Charlemagne had a civil war, and then like the empire was split into three, into now what become now the modern countries of Germany, France, and also Italy. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. God bless you guys all.